Fiber Trek. My name is Sarah. I'm not sure what episode this is, but I am so glad that you decided to join me, whether you're a returning viewer or, sorry, black flies, ducks, whether you're a returning viewer or just tuning in for the first time. Thank you so much for investing in the podcast. I appreciate the conversation that happens here, and certainly like the connections that have been made through the podcast, whether through social media or Ravelry or email. I have been on a bit of a walkabout the past month and out of contact. I've received emails and other kind of interactions and tried to keep up with some of them, but I kind of just dropped off the radar in some ways because it felt really good to just drop off the radar. I was like reading books in the afternoon, and but I'm back on track now, and well, I mean, I'm back to my normal routine. I had originally planned to visit my parents right after graduation, and that kind of got rigmarolled, and I was down there longer than I thought, and I didn't have the things that I needed, etc., etc. So I went with it. But here I am, kind of back in routine, back in the northern part of the state. If you are just new to the podcast, I live in northern Maine. I live in an unorganized territory, which is exactly what it sounds like. I don't live in a town. There's no municipality. Cell service ends for me about 2 miles up the road, and that's it until you reach the Canadian border. So we are probably 6 hours south of Quebec City or south of Montreal, and then I'm an hour to the New Brunswick border to Holton, and we live right at the base. Well, not right at the base, but we live at the boundary of Baxter Park, which includes Katahdin, Maine's highest peak, and the terminus of the Appalachian Trail, and also the gateway to the Allagash Waterway, which is a really cool wilderness waterway, conservation waterway. So welcome. You are most welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. I am outside, of course. I'm on the porch, and I thought that would be a little bit easier than disrupting all of the wildlife that appears in the summer. We've got quite a few mallards here, and the squirrels and other birds didn't seem too disturbed up on the porch with my presence, and I wanted to be proximal to my dogs. And I have my dog Bella out here, who's a border collie, and she does much better on the porch because she's not around looking for little duck treats, which are not necessarily treats that you and I would appreciate, but she certainly does. So that's where I am, and I have today an agenda. I'm not working with show notes. We'll see how that rolls, but I really wanted to get a podcast out, and I have been avoiding my computer a little bit, so I thought, well, I'll just go with what I have here, and hopefully these things will inspire some of my thoughts that I've had while I've been while I've been traveling. So the agenda: I have finished objects, I have works in progress, I have acquisitions and discoveries. I have lots of that. I will have a Wool Heroes and Heroines segment for you, and I will have kind of a short montage. Is it montage? I think that's what it is. It's not a collage of my travels over the past couple weeks. And I'll just probably set that to music. If you haven't had an opportunity, I did put, that's the loon. I don't know if you can hear it. We have common loons here. They're large birds. They're actually slightly disconcerting when you're up close to them. They have very sharp pointed beaks, and they're big birds, and you don't realize that till you kind of are canoeing and next to them, and they pop up, and a whole bunch of ducklings just showed up. Anyway, are you okay? The dog's right here, and she just kind of flopped over. So I put together a film about my time on Flat Island and shearing on Flat Island. Flat is a island off the coast of Maine, and it's down east, and they being two people who live on mainland Maine, run a flock of natural colored sheep on that island. And so we went out to shear. It was a glorious day, and I would recommend, if you're interested in that type of work, that piece of the craft, that you go watch that video, because it shows us going out in the boats, and it shows us wrestling the sheep and shearing and grading fleeces and everything that kind of goes into that. It's all set to music. There's no commentary. So I put that together, and I have footage of my time at New Hampshire Sheep and Wool, which I'll talk about. I have footage of my time at Fiber Frolic, which I'll talk about. I have footage of my time driving up into the woods, which I may talk about. But that's just kind of like a fun, wow, that's, you know, look what we saw kind of thing, and that'll be at the end. So I will have acquisitions and discovery, wool heroes and heroines, and then acquisitions and discoveries will probably get into a little bit of the my festival going. So I'll put that down. So where do I want to begin? Well, I think I'll start with what's on my needles. Maybe I'll start with finished objects. I think that's what I'll do. It's a little nuthatch just flew by. So the thing that was troublesome over the past month is that when I went out to my parents, I packed light. In fact, I packed 2 knitting projects, and which were almost finished. And I packed like little clothing, so I ended up being at my parents for 3 weeks, and the temperatures got into like the 80s, and I had like pants and long sleeve shirts, so I didn't have any summer clothing. So yeah, it was just a little bit like, you know, roll with it. Anyway, when I sat at my parents, I finished quite quickly. Wow, why is it still attached? Oh no, it's not. I finished The Daybreak by Stephen West. This is out of, it's not been blocked. This is out of Anne Hanson's Bare Naked Knit Spot. That's the cream. It's a 3-ply Cheviot yarn. And then the color that you see is Upton Yarns, and she does all natural dyes. And this is her 3-ply Romney Cotswold. I don't know if the light's going to give you that, but it's kind of a gradation of indigo, and it moves down to a natural dark brown, and then kind of a gray brown, and then into a beautiful copper color, which she derived from walnut. So she currently has a shop online, and you can peruse what she has available. Sarah specializes in kind of a term I've kind of coined, place-based yarns. She sources fleeces from particular farms and has yarn spun up to them in a kind of a thoughtful, curated way. What she's looking for, example, Gansey, her Gansey yarn. She also procures some island fleeces for that yarn, and is then traditionally dyed. And so she has a 5-ply Gansey, and then she just has some other fun bases. I have one which you'll be hearing about soon, because I'll be working with it. It's a 3-ply blue-faced Leicester from Maine. It's a Maine flock from the Mid-Coast area. So anyway, she's just a lot of fun just to see what she's got going on. But once I think this is blocked, I think it's going to be big. It is huge. So that's done. And I haven't been able to block it because it's been pretty damp. I'll hopefully get that done maybe tomorrow. I also finished, it's all right, ducks. I also finished the sleeves for my Miss Rachel sweater by Kate Davies. They're not that exciting to look at, but this is her buchel base and Scottish Highland fleeces. I don't know if you can hear the peeping, but that's the baby mallards. They're coming over. And I have no feed. Hi, guys. So this is more just to give you an idea of the color. So the sweater, it's a yoke sweater, and I've knit the sleeves. The base is her Core colorway, or Har maybe. I can't remember if it's Hoarfrost or Har, some derivative of that. And it's kind of it's a warm gray. And then the yoke is a series of kind of strips that are done in small patterning. I have a picture here if anybody is interested. So I'm looking forward to, I'm moving through the body. I've finished the decreases for the waist shaping, and I'll start the increases pretty soon. Where is she? Oh. Hello, my little peepers. And that gives you a general idea of the yoke colors and design. So that is on the needles, and I've been working on that pretty monogamously. I've hauled out of hibernation for my shawl project, and I haven't worked on it at all, but I am thinking I'd like to be committed. I don't know if I can show you these babies, but holy smokes, baby ducklings just make me melt. I don't know if it's like just their little miniature bills. I don't know. So one of the nice things about being out here, of course, is we had a Cooper's hawk hunting frequently this spring, and they've hunted in the past, and they've hunted ducklings and stuff. So at least I'm out here, and hopefully he won't fly in. Oops, somebody's getting poinked. So this is the Talisman Shawl by Lucy Haig. It is a cabled shawl. It'll be a triangle shape. You cable on every row. And I'm knitting it out of an alpaca wool blend from the Alpaca Cooperative I got at Unity Farm. What's the word I'm looking for? Northern Solstice Alpaca Farm based in Unity, Maine. And it's a beautiful, warm, kind of oatmeal color. Oh. So, see if I can get kind of motivated on that. So I haven't worked on that, but I'm putting it back in the rotation. All right, so that's finished objects and works in progress for knitting. I finished, this is my muslin for the Anne Carolyn smock. I don't know if I can get the true experience of it here. This is by Ellen Mason. She's a knitwear designer, and this is her first sewing pattern, and I just finished this and I love it. It fits really well. It's really comfortable, and I've been wearing it quite a bit. I changed a few things, like the sleeve length, and I think I would like to work on. She has darts here. It's a raglan shaping, so there's darts. I think I just want to take up a little bit more fabric because sometimes I get a little bit of a bulge in the back, so I'm thinking if I took those darts up, I might be able to deal with some of that extra fabric. I also finished another schoolhouse tunic, which is a Sew Liberated pattern. I like these as part of my uniform wardrobe, especially working with children because you can do lots of fun things. So I just finished this one. This is the full length. Whoa, I have one that has owls. This one is foxes on a kind of beautiful navy blue background. So the pleats really suit my body shape and my style, and I just throw a camisole underneath. So it's 2 box pleats in the front and then 1 larger box pleat in the back. And it's tunic length, so it goes down to just, maybe a couple inches above my knee. So that got finished today, or yesterday. And I'm working on some other projects, which I'll talk about. Probably in acquisitions and discoveries. So that's really it. I did some spinning. I've just been working on hand spinning some Colorado Cormo, and I did ply up some more of my Flat Island fleece, but the wheels, as soon as I got home here, I really began working on sewing projects. One of my goals is to get a lot of projects cut out, so even into the fall, I'll be traveling quite a bit again, but not quite as intensely. That when I come home, I have projects that are already cut out, everything's there, and I just kind of am able to sew. So I've been doing a lot of tracing and a lot of cutting lately. The first part of my adventure in acquisitions and discoveries would take me to the New Hampshire Sheep and Wool Festival. I got to meet up with a number of friends there and went to the podcaster meetup, and I got to enjoy the day with my husband, which was so much fun because we don't get a lot of time off together gallivanting about. Oh, oh God, I don't know what that was behind me. So I started off, I met up with Sarah of Upton Yarns and her husband, and we immediately planned our food adventure. So, which entailed fraps and eclairs and lemonade. So the food was well taken care of and well in hand. And then I immediately went to see one of my most favorite vendors. You can only get her yarn at festivals, and she does vend at Fiber Frolic, and she does vend at New Hampshire Sheep and Wool and a number of other New England festivals, and that is Tidal Yarns. You've heard me talk about Tidal Yarns before. She's another natural dyer who kind of focuses on place-based yarns, so sourcing fleeces and designing yarn. I believe it's spun at Green Mountain Spinnery. I picked up, this is her, she's considering this, she doesn't have a weight on it. It's 4 ounces, 260 yards, and I'd probably say for me, this is a light worsted, and I've knit with this base before, and that's part of the reason I bought this. I bought 3 skeins to do a sweater and then do a yoke with my contrasting colors. So I'm not 100% sure. This is like madder and something. Madder first, then cochineal. And I have a feeling it's probably over-dyed gray. Just because of the beautiful kind of heathery, subtle hints to that. Anyway, so this is destined to be a yoke sweater, and I have blues and kind of sagey greens to go up in the yoke. I know it's a little bit different for me. Typically, I choose a real neutral color and try to do a little bit more in the yoke, but I really thought it would be fun to have a red sweater. I don't know if you can see the nuthatch in the house behind me. I love them. So I got 3 skeins from her and had a chance to talk to her. She's just one of those people that, like, she and I have had some great conversations, and I see her, well, this year I get to see her twice, maybe once a year, but I always just connect with Patricia, and I think it has to do with being wool kindred. If you do have a chance to see her at a show, I would highly recommend investing in her product. It's a really beautiful product, it's a thoughtful product, and I think she does a really nice job communicating that concept of place and color into her designers. So I don't know after that what happened, because we were rambling around, but I did make it to the podcaster meetup at 1. That was really organized. I just happened to show up. It was beautifully orchestrated and organized. Claire of New Hampshire Knits, the host of the Gay Knitter podcast, the host of Mandy Pinecone, the host of Sarah Nova Crafts, and host of the Uncreative Crafter, which is Jen. And they did a raffle, and people came with gifts. I received a lovely hostess present, if you will, from Mandy Pinecone and the Gay Knitter podcast. He had these gorgeous stitch markers made. How much fun is that? And there's tea, and there's minis in here, which these are my first minis, so we'll see what happens. There's some chocolate that I didn't know I had. Who knew? I had kind of put this away my husband put this away when he came home, because he brought a lot of stuff home, and so it was sitting next to my sewing stuff just for this occasion. Jen was, I had mugs, so it was just a really nice event for people to participate in, including myself, even though I was a podcaster. It was great to talk to everybody who came. Again, I just so appreciate your interest and your willingness to come and chat and say hello. And I met a couple, and they are chemists, and they were working on a scour formula, and I have used it. I will talk about that in another podcast. I'm going to give you more insight into it, and I'm washing my Santa Cruz with it. So I'll talk a little bit more about scouring and washing fleece on another episode. But they gave me samples to try, so that was really fun. And then Jen offered a coupon code for her shawl View from the Charles. So just a really nice way to engage with people and make them feel most welcome. So the podcaster meetup was a real thrill. Claire of New Hampshire Knits was there. She had Sherpa'd some yarn for me back across the sea. I am such a Blacker fan, and really their yarn, I've just never been disappointed with what I have ordered or received, whether it was Cornish Tin or Tamar, or I have their St. Kilda lace, and so I just want to become a collector of Blacker yarns. They do a really nice job, mosquito, with breed-specific blends and just and communicating that to their patrons. So Claire brought back my Tamar. We had ordered it and sent it to her mother's, and she brought it back for me. So I got a sweater's worth of the DK, and this is the Gale. So make sure I don't have any colorway, and it's kind of a sage green. And I got this. This is Laren. This shade to do a contrasting yoke motif. So these are 100 gram skeins and 238 yards, 220 meters per 100 grams. And this is their luster blend. So it is a long wool combination with Cornish mule to give it a little bit more spring. So your long wools, your luster blends are going to give you the length and the luster and the tensile strength, and the shorter fleeces, the shorter staple, the crimpier staples, if you will, they have more waves in them. It's going to give it a little bit more bounce, right? It's going to want to, it has more memory. So I got those. Sweater's worth. I love knitting sweaters. And let's see, that's a separate gig. New Hampshire Sheep and Wool. I had an opportunity to visit with the owners of, Great Bay Wool Works. I got a chance to visit with her. I got a chance to visit with Carol of Foster Sheep Farm. Oh, I didn't bring the ones I bought down. I bought 2 skeins of her Wensleydale Romney fingering blend and a really beautiful, kind of not a chestnut brown, but a really pretty brown. I know. Carol was like, please. So I got a chance to talk to Carol, and she is a hoot. I got to see her again at Fiber Frolic, where I bought some soap. And she was so generous and to support the podcast with a skein to give away. This is her 85% Romney, 50% Wensleydale, 395 yards per 4 ounces. And this colorway, I picked this out with her approval, is a beautiful teal blue or Aegean blue. It's gorgeous, and it's got some real pretty tonality to it, which probably isn't showing up on the camera. But this is for a giveaway, and I haven't figured out when I'm going to give it away yet, but I will squirrel it away in plastic and into one of my bins, and this will be coming up soon. So thank you so much, Carol, for the giveaway. I will show you my other, the color that I picked out for me on another episode. I had seen this vendor last year, and I wanted to visit her again this year. It's a nuthatch behind me making that sound. This is Maple Frost Farm, and this is a Leicester Longwool. 220 yards, 4-ounce skeins. I got 3 skeins. I'm thinking I would like to do an Ilsolda shawl out of this. I'm spinning Leicester Longwool now for a shawl. I'm doing a 2-ply kind of fingering weight. And so I wanted to, this is a little bit heavier than that, but I wanted to get a feel for what could that structure look like, what would my twist per inch look like, just to see what commercially spun yarn would look, with the handle. So I got 3 skeins of this from Maple Frost Farm, and they are located they're in Langdon, New Hampshire at maplefrostfarm.com if you're looking for Leicester Longwool yarn. So I think the last thing I purchased for yarn I got a skein of Green Mountain Spinnery Mountain Mohair. This is one of the original yarns that I worked with. When I was living in Vermont, I went to university in Burlington and then taught in Burlington and I lived in Heinsberg, and I lived up in the islands for a while. So I had lots of access to Green Mountain Spinnery, and it was my go-to, and I still love mountain mohair. I really want to do a sweater out of mountain mohair, but I thought this was a nice match for the Icelandic yarn that came back to me from my own fleeces from the Aroostook Fiber Mill. I think that's what it is, Fiber Company? Aroostook Fiber Mill. So I'm planning to do Kate Davies Icelandic yoke, of a name I cannot pronounce, and I got this as one of the colors, and it's their spruce colorway. Sorry, it's their balsam colorway. And it's kind of a tweedy green, has a little bit of tealy green but darker overtones to it. So that's going to go in there. So it's great to be able to buy that direct from the spinnery. So that was it for New Hampshire Sheep and Wool. Aside from the yarn, of course, I think that this particular festival really brought home a lot of connection for me. Meeting other podcasters, seeing their work, meeting viewers, seeing their work, what inspires them, and then just watching that community interact, and the raffle, and how much fun that was. So I don't remember if I mentioned everybody. I think I did at the podcaster meetup. Did I mention Jen of Down Cellar Studio Podcast? I can't remember. I've recorded this once before. Ooh, black flies. So Jen of Down Cellar Studio Podcast was there. I've been a longtime listener of that audio podcast, and she's another New Englander, so it was great to have her there. I really like her podcast and the way she incorporates family into her podcast, and I enjoy the antics of her nieces and nephews and their forays into the craft, and I enjoy her talks with her mom. It just sounds like a lot of fun. So it was great to have her there. Holy smokes, these birds are going crazy. I guess that's what happens when you sit next to the suet feeder. I may have to move inside because the black flies are starting to annoy me. So I'm sorry if I was redundant about Jen. I may have to edit that out, but I just wanted to make sure I covered everybody because it was just great to feel like a part of something. So aside from eating fraps and sausage sandwiches and all sorts of fun stuff, New Hampshire Sheep and Wool was a great show, and I think a lot of the vendors there really they just exemplify what I'm looking for in my yarns and my soulful stash. So if you have a chance next year, I hope I'll see you there. All right, I'm going to move inside. So that interlude ended up being a little bit more of a full-on break than just a migrate inside. I hope you got to enjoy some of the wildlife, but I was starting to inhale the black flies, so I figured I better come in. I think I left off at New Hampshire Sheep and Wool. I didn't really cover everything I probably could have. It was such a great day with just great people, that being the gist. And I, again, like I said, highly recommend the show. So from there, literally drove back to Maine, went to sleep, got up the next morning, and drove down east, which is basically, as it sounds, we drove north to drive south and east. And we went up to Addison, and we got on a boat, and we went out and spent 3 days on Nash Island at Lambing. And at that point, I was finally able to bring my husband, and that was really good fun, and we worked on projects, and we got the corral fence ready for shearing, and it was blowing a fresh gale. So we were inside a lot. There's no tree cover on these islands, and like I said, if you watch the video, you'll get a better sense of the landscape. And so you just hear the blowing against the shingled camp all night long. We had such a good time. It's such a treat to spend some quality time with the Wakemans, who own the island and manage the flock, and of course with Janie, Estelle, and her work out there at Nash. I'm sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on my dogs. They're over here. So then, let's see. So that happened. Rob had to go back, and I stayed on and sheared flat, and that's covered in the video Gone Walkabout. And I picked my fleece out for the year, so that was a good fun. And I'll be hopefully going back up to Starcroft Mill to do some work with Janie, however she needs me, but especially on the Shackleton. So shearing on flat, and then I came home and waited a week, and then I went back for shearing on Big Nash. So prior to that, I knew that I wanted to visit Clementine, which is Janie's daughter's fabric store in Rockland. And it's been open for a year, and I've been wanting to go. So I figured I would drive up Route 1, and actually I cut over. I went up to Augusta and cut over to avoid the Wiscasset nightmare for Memorial Day weekend. And what I'm talking about is when you come through Bath and you're on Route 1 on the coast of Maine, the only way, well, it's not the only way, but you've got to cross, I think it's the Androscoggin, I'm not 100% sure. Nope, strike that. I'm not going to say anything geographic without double checking it first. You have to cross an outlet of a river into the ocean. And you drive through this gorgeous sea town, old sea town, and at the base of the bridge, before you can head out, is Red's Lobster Rolls. And there's always a line, and there's a crosswalk there, and traffic can be backed up for miles on both sides. So once you cross the bridge, there's Booth Bay, and you kind of get to be scot-free. You're on your way to Ellsworth, eventually on to Acadia National Park. And you can just spend hours sitting there waiting, people crossing at the crosswalk and trying to make turns and parking. And so anyway, I wanted to avoid that, so I went up to Augusta and I cut over to Rockland. All that to say, I went to Clementine. What a fabulous store. So she does specialize in garment apparel, and she took me through all the different types of fabrics, what they're used for, how she has them organized, and I went a little bit crazy. Just a little bit. But as Leah said, who is the owner, it's my local yarn store, and so I might as well, my local fabric store, which is 2.5 hours away from me, so I might as well just build a stash of projects so that I'm ready to go. So I picked out a lot of stuff and put that together, and I was like, I want a subscription, Leah, to your shop where I come in once and pick out everything and get it all cut and then stash it, like lay away, and then pay on it so that I have like a monthly project subscription, sewing subscription. So anyway, what I came away with is a couple patterns, and I'm going to show you the immediate fabric that I'm going to be working with, and then as I work with other fabrics for other projects, I'll talk a little bit about them. So I picked up the Endless Summer Tunic, which is a verb for keeping warm. Leah was wearing this, and it is designed for woven fabrics, but she was wearing it in a knit, and I was so taken with what she had on. So I got that, and I bought these two fabrics to do those in. So I got mushrooms, this is knits, and this pretty kind of shell-like pattern. It's navy, like little pearl dots that make shells, and then this light blue mushroom. And I only needed like 1 3/4 yards of this, so it's a really fun project. I think I'm going to Alabama Shannon it up a little bit with my seams. So I'm going to maybe just do hand sewn seams or leave exposed seams. I'm not gonna, these are really just gonna be utility types of garments, comfortable garments, etc. So I got that. And then I tried on a dress in the shop, which was a great piece of actually going, aside from getting to touch the fabrics. So I tried on a dress in the shop, which was the Marianne dress. I picked this up as well. This is designed for knits. This is I think it's Hanes, Christine Hanes pattern. It's Marianne. And I'm going to be doing the one right here, which has no Peter Pan collar, and it's got 3/4 length sleeves and kind of a tunic, just a little bit longer than a tunic length. And it has two materials, and so I got, for the main material, I got this Charlie Harper knit of the little sparrows or vireos or whatever they are on the turquoise background, and then as the contrast fabric to do the yoke and the cuffs, I got this really pretty gold. So I think that will be a really fun, comfortable outfit. The dress I tried on was really comfortable, and I didn't think I was going to like the way it looked at me. I didn't think I was going to like the fit, so it definitely paid to go in there and try on the dresses. So I tried on that one, and I tried on, well, I guess I tried on that one. There was one other one I tried on, I can't remember what it was, but, and I also picked up the Cinema dress by Liesling Company, and I'm actually tracing this right now, and I picked up some fabric at the discount store to do my muslin in, but I'm going to be shifting this waistline up to almost an impure waist. I don't know if you can see. So I'm going to shift that up. So I'm kind of like trying to wrap my head around that right now, and I'll keep you posted as I move through that concept. So I'm doing a muslin out of that just to make sure I like the way that that fits. I think that drop waist on me might just look a little bit too school marmy, and I think a higher waist on me just looks a little bit more hip, for lack of a better word. So I stopped there. I had a great time. I was walking around the store, and I knew that Kristen Kapoor and Gale Zucker were headed up for shearing. We were all staying at Janny's. Kristen is a knitwear designer from New York City, and Gale is a phenomenal photographer, and she does lots of different projects, and one of which is knitwear and fiber and those types of topics. So I happened to run into them at Leah's store, so that was really good fun. And we were like, see you later. And I ended up having lunch with Leah and spending time in downtown Rockland, and that was really the first time I had visited Rockland, aside from just driving through. So thank you so much, Clementine and Leah. It was a really fantastic experience. It was a destination experience. If there's a reason to go to Rockland, Clementine is it. I then went on to shearing at Big Nash. That's the large island. It's about 100 and some odd sheep. I met my husband at Janny's on Saturday night, and Janny was hosting a number of her friends, which included a number of knitwear designers, and we all headed out on Saturday morning. And it begins with a breakfast, and then we did roundup. So we have to sweep the island. We move all the sheep kind of up against a fence line, if you will, and then we use that fence line as a boundary, and we guide sheep into the corral. Once sheep are in there, there's 4 shearers. There's a catcher, there's a gate operator, and then there's people that are doing skirting fleeces. And then Janny grades the wool. So I got a little lesson in grading wool both on flat and on Nash, which was good. And my job was to support the shearers. And as that fleece comes off, and you'll see me doing this in the video. So as the fleece comes off, I was taking off all the dags, which is basically all the poopy bits that kind of form around the breech area. So that all comes off and gets chucked, and that's before it gets thrown up on the skirting table. So as the shearer finishes that, you kind of tuck in. Oh, there's an ant crawling across my camera. You kind of tuck in and scoop that all out, get rid of it. You also take the belly wool that goes. And then once the fleece is off the sheep, pick up the fleece, you kind of skirt it up in your hands like this. And these are big fleeces. And you throw it over your your head, and hopefully it lands in the appropriate way, and then it gets skirted. So it was a really interesting experience to have the full gamut of operations in this craft there. So we had people like Gudrun Johnston and Mary Jane Mucklestone, Kristen Kapoor, Carrie Bostic Hogue was there photographing. So you have this whole group of people that work with the product, right? And then you have this whole group of people that work with the medium. And it was such an interesting dynamic of people doing, interacting with wool in so many different levels. And I just really enjoyed meeting those knitwear designers. So it was really great to see all the different dynamics that were happening in that one island with this one flock. So that was spectacular and fun, and always a good time. I spent an extra night with Janny. I got to see my husband a little bit before he went back, so we had a really nice visit and ate lots of Pirate's booty. Just excuse me for 1 minute. There's a flying ant in the house, and I want to get it. So after that, I returned home and tuned out for a little while. I watched some podcasts. I really enjoyed Lori Dubois' latest podcast, Chickenwood Studio. She talks about weaving and spinning and dyeing, like all in the same episode. And I would recommend you go checking that out. She also talks about Nash Island fleeces as well. So I was enjoying her podcast and some of the oldies but goodies and reading. And so I think I had to wait like a week and a half, and then I got to go to Fiber Frolic. So Fiber Frolic is the main festival. It's the first weekend in June. It has a lot of great vendors. I've talked about it before. I went with my mom and my sister-in-law and my niece. I saw some old friends there. I saw some people that I thoroughly enjoy, and I'm so glad I get to see them more than once a year because they are retreat goers. They'll be attending the retreat in July, the Bold Coast retreat, which is down east, basically, on the coast of Maine. We rent a beautiful house right on the water, and that is full. We offered 2 sessions this year, so that's exciting. And then I have my Highlands on the Fly retreat, which happens the 3rd weekend in October, which is the week after Rhinebeck, and they attend as well. So it's just so great to be able to see all these people more than once. I'm really glad we've established that network of fiber community. So, Fiber Frolic. What did I do there? Well, I had 2 missions. The first one was I had seen Matterroot. She is a printmaker and bag maker too. Post these on her Instagram feed, and I knew I wanted one. So I got this. This is her utility bag. It's got pockets on the inside. I love this kind of yarn dyed or whatever linen, and then of course the sheep. My mom even got one. I think my sister-in-law got one too with bees on it. So these were just really attractive, and they're just really beautiful and just good fun. The other mission I had, I know this is craziness, but I wanted to get from Friesleigh Farm, Icelandics, Elaine Clark, her fingering weight, and I got it in this beautiful, I don't know if it's going to pick up on it, but it's a really beautiful warm brown. So I got 2 skeins of that. So I've got 500 yards. I saw this last year and I was just really taken with it. And I think it's similar to, I think it's a little bit lighter than the way that my gray fleece came back for Maine Yarn and Fiber Supply that she had done. It's a little bit lighter weight. So anyway, it's gorgeous stuff. MaineSheepFarm.com, Elaine Clark, Friesleigh Farms. So anyway, that was it. That's what I got. Oh, that is so not true. I went to the used equipment tent and I got a rigid heddle loom. I know. But I couldn't help it. The price was so great. Just needed a little bit of like sprucing up. And my husband was able to do that. So he is so excited to start weaving on that. So anyway, we got that rigid heddle loom. talk more about that when we get it going. But just know that it happened. I got rid of the floor loom only to replace it with this loom. Let's see. What else? Oh, I kind of had a funny little moment. I went to my local discount shop, which is Martin's. They buy liquidated inventory. And there had been a liquidated yarn shop in New Hampshire, and they had so much Titus. It wasn't even funny. But I already have one skein of this colorway, which is Parkin, and it's like a deep pumpkin orange. So I picked up one skein of this to go with my other. This is an alpaca Wensleydale Blueface Leicester blend, spun in Yorkshire from Bahran U. But they had Dovestone, and I wanted to work with Dovestone, so I bought 2 skeins of Dovestone. This was all 50% off. And I got it in the Bantam colorway. This is 50% Blueface Leicester, 25% Wensleydale, and 25% dark brown Masham. Another just really fun lineup of breeds. So I picked up 2 skeins of this to see if I wanted to work with it and how I felt about it. And speaking of which, I know this is just crazy enabling and discoveries, but Claire of New Hampshire Knits has recently opened a shop, the Woolly Thistle. She is kind of specializing in import yarns right now, primarily from the UK. And she has asked for some input. She has recently established a inventory of blacker yarns, one of which is Tamar, and generously has offered a giveaway on this podcast. So for this podcast, this is the giveaway I'm going to do because it's kind of in a, what's the word I'm looking for? Time-sensitive piece. So Claire has requested that people provide input about yarns that they would like to be able to work with that they can't necessarily get in the United States, whether that's, in limitations from shipping or can't find it, it's not readily available online, etc. So I'm going to ask for this giveaway. I'm going to open a thread in the Fiber Trek group for a skein of Tamar. Thank you so much, Claire, for this generous donation. This is 100 grams of the DK, so 220 yards, 220 meters, 238 yards. This is Red River, and it is showing pretty much true color there. So the giveaway is going to be in the Fiber Trek Ravelry group thread. I would like you to, I want to build on Claire's inquiry. I would like you to put, you can double dip, of course. You can check out Claire's podcast and see what she's doing. I would like you to list what yarns would you like to get a hold of that maybe are have some limiting factors, whether that's shipping costs or availability online or things that you've heard about that you think might be interesting to give a try in the States. So for example, Island Wool was a suggestion I made to Claire that I think would be great. It's not readily available, some limitations for shipping, but totally worth it in the end anyway. And so this will be up for grabs. It is, as I said, one skein of Tamar, which the Woolly Thistle is carrying in their shop. This is the DK weight, and it's the Red River colorway. As part of Claire's generosity, she allowed me to pick a skein of Tamar. I got some 4-ply. This is the Travella colorway. It's kind of a over-dyed lavender. It's a little bit, it's not quite that rich. So I mostly have the DK because I got that for the sweater. So I got 2 skeins of this to do. I think I'm going to try Fantouche by Kate Davies in this. So lots of yarn hanging around at my house. So that giveaway is in the Fiber Trek thread, as I said, and go ahead and let us know what yarns you would like to see available in the United States and in Claire's Woolly Thistle shop. She is on Etsy at the moment. and there'll be a link in the show notes. I think I have not hit my threshold of... Yes, I'm done. Oh, no, I'm not. I think I am. Am I done? Did I tell you about this? It's long gray wool. I know. This is a pound, I think it's a pound, of Lincoln that Emily of Fibertown was looking to rehome. I don't remember all the details. I didn't keep the card with it. It was a prize-winning fleece at Maryland. It is a Lincoln. And yeehaw, look at that. I know. This is like... This is what makes my heart sing. Right? So I will be combing that and doing something fun with it this summer. I'm not done. But it's a great segue. Oh, I don't think that was a hawk. It was a duck. It's a great segue into the next section. So I was down south, and I had been intrigued by an Instagram person I was following, or farm. It's Gotland Gray, and they are a family in southern Maine that are raising Gotland, and it was exciting to see a Gotland flock in the state, and I was intrigued and I was curious. So I called them up and asked them if I could come over and do a farm visit and an interview, and they acquiesced to my request most generously. And in the end, I think their guard dog, Fafnir, was probably more interested in the spotlight than the sheep, but I think you'll enjoy the piece all the same. So I picked up from her, at the end of my visit, of course, 4 skeins. I got 2 of the dark charcoal. Oh, the ant. 2 of the dark charcoal, which I think I'm going to get more and do a sweater. I'm thinking I would like to do cerise, which wasn't it in Gotland? I don't have a picture of it handy with me. Out of this, and then I got 1 each of the other gradient colorways. So like a pewter, and then like a misty gray. So these are this is the array of colors that she has. This was spun by Hampton Fiber Mill in Vermont, and they are approximately 182 yards, 4 ounces, 2 ply. This is the 2015 clip. So on that note, I'm going to let Leah and Carl and Anders and Fafnir tell their story about the Gotlands in Maine. All right, so today I had the opportunity to visit with Leah and Carl and Anders and all the other critters at the Gray Sheep in Wyndham. And they are working with Gotland sheep. We're so excited to have Gotland's representative in the breeds here in Maine. So I was hoping Leah would be able to tell us a little bit of their story. And we're okay with the interruptions from all of our other guests today. So Leah, do you want to tell me a little bit about how you got started with this particular breed and here in Maine?
We were living in Delaware several years ago and went to the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. We were looking at all the different breeds there, and Martin and Joy Daly had some Gotlands. So Carl's family is originally from Sweden, so there's a little bit of a cultural connection. Plus, they're obviously adorable and fun, have beautiful fleeces. So we waited a couple years until we moved up here in a friendlier climate for sheep than the Mid-Atlantic, and had some more space. And then we got our first 5 Gotlands in 2012.
Okay, awesome. And how many breeding ewes do you have now?
We bred 5 this year. We'll probably breed 7 or 8 next year.
And how many lambs did you end up with?
We have 8 lambs this year.
Awesome. Now, the fleeces that come off the Gotland, what do you do with those?
Some of them we sell as raw fleeces to baby spinners.
Come on over, you can join too. So, let's talk a little bit, I've talked a lot about sheep on my podcast before, and of course the main interest in driving passion for me is always the materials that I'm using, and I think Gotland has a really interesting fleece. So can you tell me a little bit about what you do with the fleeces and how people can access them if they so wish?
Yeah, absolutely. So we shear these guys twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. Typically the fall shearing, so their summer fleeces, we sell as a raw fleece for hand spinners, and the rest of it we process for yarn.
And I think I remember you telling me that that goes to Hampton Fiber Mill.
It goes to Hampton Fiber Mill in Vermont. So you get some really beautiful yarn from there, and it's all available here at the farm, obviously.
Okay.
And we also have an online store, so people can order and ship to anywhere you are.
Great, so I can put that link in the profile, and people can, if they're looking to access, well, American Gotland, really. Do you have any idea like what the population of Gotlands in the United States is? Because it's a Swedish breed.
Yep.
Hence the connection with Carl. And it's an island breed, right? From the island of Gotland?
Gotland Island. Yeah, they were, I believe it was in the 1920s that people really started kind of an intensive breeding program. So these are, historically they're bred from goat sheep, which are the landrace sheep on Gotland. And in the 20s, farmers over there started crossing them with Romanov and Carapol sheep to improve the fleece. The goat is an interesting looking gray sheep, but I don't think it has a very nice fleece from what I've heard. It's pretty straight and coarse. So they really focused on getting this very locky curl to the fleece. So, and they're quite common in Europe, but here in the American Gotland Sheep Society, gosh, there's probably, I would say 20 or so, as a guess. Farms that are registering sheep, and I don't know about the other Gotland Club, but I know most of those are pretty small breeders.
And are they, is Sweden releasing semen, or how do you improve this breed here in the United States?
People have been doing artificial insemination, and there have been no imports for a couple of years, and I just read a letter from the Dallies yesterday that we will be allowed to import semen, I believe, from the UK, effective next year. So that's been the method, and I know the Gotland Sheep Breeders of North America, I think is the association name, they have imported some embryos from New Zealand, but they have a little bit different breeding specifications than the Cubborn. So.
All right, so you belong to a club, and then that kind of dictates the breed specifications that they're looking for that allows you to register them as Gotlands. Okay, great.
And, so in the American Gotland Sheep Society, we're not allowed to breed.
That's fine.
Not a good idea, buddy. And I don't even know if you want to include this, but the GSBN, or the Gotland Sheep Breeders of North America, are breeding white and brown Gotlands as well.
Oh, okay.
Which is not something that's done in Sweden, and the American Gotland Sheep Society breeds to the Swedish standards.
Okay.
So gray only. You can have white, and we have a couple ewes that are white, and that's acceptable, but black and gray only.
Okay. So the American Gotland Club breeds to the Swedish standard.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what you adhere to within this farm.
That's correct.
Awesome. Yeah. Hi, I'm here with, what's his name again, Carl?
Fafnir.
Fafnir. Fafnir, many of you know, I've talked about Piers before, has a very specific job, which is obviously getting lots of attention and starring in podcasts. But
Lots of back scratching.
His work here on the farm is to guard the sheep. So the primary predator we have is coyotes, and I think he does a very good job. Does he not?
He does a great job.
What the breed is known for, I mean, they're kind of a primitive breed, right?
They're kind of a primitive breed. They're in the northern short-tail group. So I guess they're kind of weird because they're both a long wool and a primitive breed, and they have been improved. But they are primitive in the sense that they're very hardy, very thrifty sheep. So they do well in like an all pasture system. We do give our girls grain, but the other guys don't need it. They're short day breeders, so we only get lambs in the spring, which is cool, as we talked about before. So they're a little bit, less management. But I think they're docile. They're very friendly. They're very curious sheep. So they, I think, lend themselves really well to a small flock, to a family farm, with the exception of a couple of our old ewes. he's very safe to be around these guys.
Right.
You know, we had one ewe after she lambed that was pretty defensive around the baby, but you know, the rest of them are curious and respectful of him, so we don't worry too much about being out here with the little guy, which is nice.
Right, yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, easy to move around, easy to be with. So we found them to be just really, really pleasant animals to have.
And you're breeding for fleece.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not working on necessarily improving or conserving at this point. You can breed for fleece, and are the Gotlands a specific percentage, or are they 100%? I don't know how that works. I know some improvement programs have worked on it's 85% or whatever.
And these guys, they are upbred, so our older foundation ewes are pretty low percentage. We have one that's 50%. We have some that are like in the 60s, and then we go up to 92%. So I think the goal is really both to maintain the look of the sheep. So, you know, we want it to be the correct body type and the correct fleece type and the correct color while we're upbreeding. And it's interesting with an upbreeding program because we have some relatively low percentage sheep that are very correct in their type and appearance. And so I mean, we kind of look at those things as of equal value.
Right.
You know, do they have the fleece and the body type that we're looking for? And that's great. And then, you know, also increasing the percentage of Gotland as we go.
Right.
So kind of attacking that from both angles,
Right.
I guess. Hey, buddy.
Now, are you a spinner or a knitter?
A knitter.
Okay.
Very poor spinner.
Okay. Well, you've got lots of opportunity to practice here.
Absolutely.
If you really actually are a poor spinner, but
I did it one time and I got this big jumble of really chunky, like knotted up stuff, and
What?
maybe for you. Carl is a much better spinner than I am.
All right, Carl's the spinner.
But
Cool.
yeah, we do both do a lot of knitting, which is nice, and you know, the yarn that we get back from Michael has been just so beautiful.
Over here.
Lots of great opportunity to make things. Yeah. Hey, bud.
Cool.
On nap times, we do lots of nap time knitting.
Yeah.
Hey, little Nian.
Anders, are you ready to have Mom's full attention back? We can do that.
Possibly. Possibly.
Let's just interview Beth here.
He really knows what's going on. doesn't he?
Say goodbye.
I hope you enjoyed that Wool Heroes and Heroines segment with Gotland Grey, the gray sheep. And I'm going to end the podcast with a couple introductions, and then after I say goodbye and farewell and my tagline, which I'm forgetting, I am gonna put together a montage of the festival that I attended, as well as a little bit of footage from my trip north. I went up to visit friends on up near Churchill Chamberlain Lake. We saw some moose. I got some footage of that, some fun stuff. So if you're interested, you can stay tuned to see what those festivals looked like. I'm getting tired. But with no further ado, because I've been terrible about my introductions, I just wanted to welcome a couple people to the community. I can't remember if I think I welcomed. Did I welcome Yarn Sit? She went to Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival this year. Was her first event, and she understands there are real sheep there. And then I have Saltbox, and she would like to travel to anywhere in England for fiber, and she's really enjoying the show. And I have Minnesota Judybug. She loves that we focus on sheep and appreciate natural colors, and she's currently working on a cabled sweater with wool from a farm about 6 miles from her home. It's a real place-based yarn. And her dream fiber trek is to Ireland. I have A Runner Bean, and she lives near Belfast in Northern Ireland, and trained and worked as a high school English teacher and taught how to knit as a child, but only the last few years that I've really got back to it. Now it's an obsession. I know. As you can see from this podcast, it's an obsession. I have Tive Trastiken. I hope that's okay. She's from Sweden, and her name is Birgitta, and she lives in the northern part of Sweden, and she's got sheep and chickens, and she does spin, knit, and crochet, and cuddle with her sheep. Well, that sounds perfect to me. Northern Sweden, knitting and crocheting and cuddling sheep. A Wendy lady who lives near central Iowa. She found me through Knit British. Yay! Thank you, Louise. I came to knitting via spinning class many years ago, waiting to be able to go from sheep to clothing. Knitting one out, although your spinning is tempting me to try it again. I connect with many of the things you mentioned: the love of colder temperatures, Louise Dickinson Rich, the man from Snowy River, and island sheep. So thank you so much for tuning in. I have Carletta from Berlin, Germany, and she knits. She says she only knits, but she knits, though she'd like to get some more fiber-related crafts. Well, we can certainly help you with that. Mezzo Crochet, she's a new knitter, intermediate crocheter who teaches vocal music. Very cool. She lives outside of Philadelphia, and her dream fiber trek would be to Ireland, so welcome to you. And last, but certainly not least, is Tammy M2. She lives in southern Mississippi, and she's just started watching the podcast. Taught herself to knit, then learned to spin, and now loves weaving too. Well, aren't we all in that rabbit hole? So welcome. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves on the board. Okay, with no further ado, I'm going to go very slowly here, but I think I remember what I'm supposed to say. I rock knits. I think it's, may all your travels include fiber. I can do this. No, let me try again. I need take 7. I found it. May all your treks include fiber and bring you back home safe. I'll see you next time. Bye.